Being a so-called good guy is generally a good thing, but always behaving like a good guy in a social setting is probably the best way to burn a lot of opportunities in life. This applies in business, in love, or with friends, just to make some examples. In this video we will see how different types of attitude towards others can directly affect the amount of opportunities that will come your way in life. As always, if you enjoyed this video, I kindly ask you to smash the like button and share it if you think some of your friends might be interested. Thank you very much. So, let's take a look at 6 categories of people we can meet in a social setting, and to do this let me introduce to you 6 friends of mine. John, Frank, Mark, Eric, Matthew, and James. They will all be with us during this video, each representing one of these 6 categories that we are going to see. Before going through them one by one, it is important to point out that we will not always adopt the same behavior in all contexts. While preparing the various profiles that I am going to describe in this video, I could see myself in at least 2 or 3 different categories, depending on the situation and also in my interest or non-interest in interacting with a certain person. But let's cut the chase and get started. John belongs to the first category, the good guys. Both when he is with friends and in the workplace, John tends to adopt a generally passive behavior and prefers to never share his opinions openly, especially if they are not in line with those of the group. He behaves the same way in romantic settings when interacting with the opposite sex. When John dates a woman, he tends never to contradict her, fearing to say something wrong that will somehow bother her. John's priority is to maintain harmony in a relationship without overexposing himself. This behavior somehow ensures that he is not frowned upon within a group, but at the same time he often turns out to be boring to the point of becoming an almost transparent presence to those around him. Then there is Frank. Frank belongs to the second category, which is the self-confident but reserved type. Frank has clear ideas, knows what he wants in life, and he is often the most intelligent and knowledgeable person within a group. The problem, however, is that despite his self-confidence, he often turns out to be too shy to ask for something. This behavior often penalizes him. For example, even though he may be admired and respected by his colleagues and boss because of his skills and talent, he may not feel comfortable when it is time to ask his boss for a pay increase, even though he knows he deserves it. With women he has a fair amount of success, a cool guy who would have no problem having his fair share of hot dates, but those few he actually had, almost all occurred when it was the girl who took the initiative with him and asked him out. Those who fall into this category have tremendous potential, but they need to open up a bit in order to take full advantage of their talents. Mark belongs to the next category, the rationals. Those who belong to this type tend to be rational to the point that they are often too pessimistic. For example, they don't ask a girl out on a date because she's too beautiful anyway, she will never say yes. Or they don't apply for a job because they know they'll never get hired anyway, when in reality they'd actually have a good chance. As with the previous category, rational people often get stuck for fear of rejection. From their point of view, if there are a high chance of failure, then it is not worth trying, and this is how they waste tons of opportunities. Moving up the ladder we find Eric, in the 4th category, that of the assertive people. Now, let's be serious, with Eric you don't mess around. Assertive people are those who know exactly what they want and are not afraid to share their opinions. Assertive people tend to be generally extroverted, and the combination of knowledge and networking skills, in conjunction with an innate knowledge on how to sell themselves, can put them in a position to generate many opportunities. The difference between assertive people and the previous categories is that assertive people have the ability to stand up for themselves while at the same time never losing respect for those in front of them. Think for a moment about the difference in personality that can transpire between an assertive person and a so-called nice guy, and you can easily understand why an assertive person can be more charismatic and attractive both professionally and in relationships. A man or woman who knows what they want and is not afraid to express themselves will always have a certain charm. Moving up the ladder, at the very top of the food chain, we find Matthew, the opinionated person. People in this category are not only assertive, but they also have no problem challenging the opinion of others, and they do it in an intelligent way by analyzing and criticizing one's point of view in a serious and polite way, and not simply by raising their voices and speaking rubbish just to feel at the center of attention. When Matthew gets to know a girl, he doesn't just agree with everything she says for the sake of it, for fear of losing her. He has his own opinion, and if there's no good reason to change it, he doesn't do it just to impress someone else. People like Matthew are generally highly valued in the business field as well, because they can make people think and possibly improve business processes that perhaps had long been taken for granted. This way of approaching life and relationships means that Matthew will find himself having many more opportunities than to members of the other categories. Eric, and even more so Matthew, are memorable. When you meet them, they leave their mark. The way they approach various social settings makes the people they interact with remember them, and that's the first step toward new opportunities. Then there is the last category in which we find James. This is the so-called pestering category, and here we find those who in their minds want to be like the opinionated category. They see Matthew as an inspiration, but in the process of becoming like him, they too often cross the line to the point of being annoying. The reality is that while the behavior of an assertive or an opinionated person is largely dictated by self-confidence, in the case of the pestering category it is precisely insecurity that leads them to always have to talk too much, to have to actively look for something to criticize even when they don't actually have anything useful to say. Into this category is likely to fall those who have come to watch this video up to the previous profile, Matthew's, and then they shut it down thinking that they had figured out what to do, but then they take that behavior to the extreme without even realizing it. As mentioned earlier, very few people manage to be assertive or opinionated all the time in life, and that's okay. The purpose of the video is simply to understand what is the best approach in certain contexts if we are looking for opportunities. This doesn't mean that we should always be assertive or always be opinionated. I personally don't have a problem with being assertive or opinionated, but in spite of that, very often, especially if I am in a social situation where I don't have much interest, I tend to be more reserved, almost avoiding participating in some conversations. And I'm okay with that. The important point is to be aware of the pros and cons of each behavior and what comes with it. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you like, let me know which of the categories listed you see yourself in the most by leaving a comment. If you like this video, I recommend the video 10 Signs of Intelligence That Cannot Be Faked, which you can find on this channel. Also, be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss future videos. Have a great rest of the day.